that was an excellent conversation. I just finished a long episode of the Luminous Arts podcast with Timo Lejeune, a light artist based out of the Netherlands. His group, Luminous Instruments, combines light and music in integrated performances using a custom software stack that he's creating. One part sculptural lighting artist, one part music producer, he's creating a really unique installation that synchronizes the lighting and the music by creating both from the same software. The main outlet for his work is the art festival scene in Europe. We have a great time talking about our experiences with festival culture and how light art is represented in that world, and the various ways to make your way as a light artist. Timo's a super cool guy. I'm looking forward to hanging out in person. I hope you guys enjoy listening to this podcast as much as I enjoyed creating it. Where are you in the Netherlands?
Eindhoven. It's
In Andover?
Eindhoven, yeah. Do you know Philips?
No. Oh, Philips Hue? Like
Yeah,
Philips,
exactly.
the
Philips,
lighting
yeah.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They originated in Eindhoven. So actually, like the whole,
Really?
yeah. So the whole city is just like Philips everywhere.
That's so funny, man, because I always pictured Philips being like some mega company that came out of like the Midwest United States or something.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just I think it's because I've always known them as like the mega conglomerate that owns the blue LED,
Yeah,
or like the intellectual property behind the blue LED.
yeah. No, it's from Eindhoven. It's a guy called Frits Philips, and he invented or he mass produced the light bulb, and that's where it started. So actually, like 200 meters from where I live is where the synthesizer was invented, and the cassette recorder. And I live in an old Philips lighting building, and yeah, it's just everywhere around here.
That's cool, man. Well,
Yeah.
I go way out of my way not to use Philips equipment just because it's so proprietary. Don't tell them
No,
that. But
no, it's not that I love Philips that much. I mean, they also stepped out of this whole entertainment lighting and lighting, like they renamed it to Signify. I don't know if you know that. So
no.
actually, now you have Philips Healthcare and everything. So it's the whole healthcare, toothbrushes, shaving machines, that kind of stuff. And then you have Philips Lighting, which is rebranded to Signify. And they want to step
Wow.
out of that a little bit.
When
And
did that happen? Because
last year,
I didn't know that they had spun off their lighting division.
yeah, it's last year or something. They did they
Oh,
didn't they
interesting.
didn't spin it off. It's just, especially the entertainment corner from Philips is just like they don't really care anymore.
Yeah,
So there's a couple of, they just shoved it off to some other guys in the States, I think. And yeah, that's
interesting. Well,
like
that whole industry is hurting right now. No
yeah,
one's doing anything in entertainment
no,
unless it's
it's
virtual, unless it's like a Zoom hangout dance party.
yeah. And I don't know if you know Miles de Bastion. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but he posted this thing a couple of days ago about yeah, so what's going to be the future? Well, what do we have to do now? Do we have to go towards a matrix future and give like digital house parties and everything? And it's just
Oh man, we're there already. Like we are fully in the matrix. This past month, man, I've gone to so many virtual events. It's like
yeah,
I don't know. From what I've learned, virtual dance parties do not work very well, but virtual hangouts work great. Like
yeah,
I love just sitting around in a chat room shooting the shit with friends.
yeah,
Dance parties, they feel a little contrived.
yeah.
Not so much digging on that, but
Like
you know,
one of the biggest and more innovative festivals here in the Netherlands is called Digital. They did like a bigger virtual or digital, yeah, they called it digital festival a couple of weeks ago. And it's just like they hyped it a lot, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, so now we're going to tune in to digital and listen to all the live streams and everything. But then when you sit there, it's just like,
well,
it's
in the
fun,
end of the day, you're
but
still sitting on your couch
exactly, yeah.
staring at a
You
screen.
can get drunk as fuck, or you can pull it, yeah, just take whatever you want, but it's still just not the same. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not the same, man. It's like virtual reality when they were pumping that as like there was like a lot of hype in the early days of VR when people were like, this is we're gonna have like virtual festivals and people are just gonna put on their headsets and like attend these things virtually.
Yeah,
It's like, well, it's so abstracted from, we're social animals. Like we need to
exactly.
be like around people. You can't synthesize that, not yet
No,
at least.
no, that's exactly the point that I was trying to make to Miles. Is like we have this working model. We have this 100% authentic working model, which is real life. So
Yeah,
why go to all of the effort and to like this whole 1.5 meter economy is just okay for now for a couple of weeks, maybe for a couple of months, it's fine. But when you do that to generations of people, it will destroy them. It
yeah.
just affects your happiness so much when you're not able to touch people, when you're not able to um come close to people. And
Well, it's a really interesting social experiment. Like this
yeah,
whole the virus and the crisis and everything. It's funny because you know people people innately respond to like drastic changes and fear, right? We're programmed to do that, and I
yeah,
feel like for a few months we're all really good at adhering to these things, joining together as a community and responding cohesively in order to stamp out the danger. You know what I mean? But just like anything, eventually it um, will become accustomed to it, right?
yeah,
And I think that at a certain point, yeah, I don't know if it's really sustainable to maintain this level of isolation for that long, just because we're social animals,
yeah,
right? And it's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
this goes very much against our nature.
yeah,
So
and
it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out.
yeah, because it's of course it's a whole shock, and we have to be really happy that it wasn't an even worse virus.
Yeah, I
um
know, man.
but
Right?
it's just induced so much fear on us, and it's so hard for people to step out of
Well,
that.
plagues are
And
scary. Plagues are scary. It's like
yeah,
it's like looking into the bushes and you see tiger eyes, and you're like, that's scary.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like no matter what culture you're from, if see a wolf, that's like scary.
yeah,
Just
but
like
you can't see
plagues have been.
this.
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
that's like what fucks up people so much. And that's why I'm really curious in how this is going to affect the first time when I'm going to a festival again, when
So that's. Let me introduce you. You're Timo Lejeune. So pronounce that right, Lejeune.
yeah, Lejeune, yeah, yeah, that's all right.
And you're half of a light artist duo called Luminous.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Loomis.
Luminous.
Yeah,
You
so
guys,
yeah, that's what people get wrong a lot of times. Like our first artwork, big artwork, was called Luminous, and we as a studio are called Loomis.
it's funny because this podcast is Luminous Arts,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
this is like in my mind. But yeah, you guys do really, really killer work, and like to me, especially the work that you do, uh, merging lighting with music,
Yeah.
that's like so next level, and it's just so seamless the way that you guys do it. It's almost like you're almost like a band that where the lighting is an instrument. It
Hmm.
reminds me very much actually of the guys over at Play Modes.
Yeah.
Santi and those guys.
Yeah. I don't know in
Do you
depth.
know them?
I knew them, and of course I saw their work. What was it, a year or two ago, and I was inspired by it, I have to say. But yeah, as I just told you, I've been working with music for so long, and like the music festivals was such a driving force in yeah, going across this road of creating light art, and music always was a part of it. So creating this fused feeling of music and lighting was always a challenge to me. And when I went to festivals, what I love most about festivals is the live experience. And I hate it when you have these pre-programmed shows, or where you just
Yeah,
see like, okay, they push a button, and of course it looks all great and it's all perfectly synced. But that's not why I go to a festival. I do not go to a festival to see somebody press play. It's the improvisation and this spontaneity that I think is really interesting in creating art.
Sure, it's a shift in paradigm. Where, I used to work in concert touring on the lighting side, and the lighting and the video, it was a very tightly choreographed dance that was created to follow the music, and then in a more spontaneous real time sense, you get the VJing side, which is much more of a improvisational dance. Um, but traditionally it's still been two different people. You have like a visual performer and the musicians.
Yeah,
And what you guys are doing is you're taking the synthesis of those two things, and you're giving the lighting instrument and integrating that into the musician's toolbox, which
yeah,
is it's a much more streamlined way to create an experience, because then there is like one cohesive performance happening.
yeah. And it also impacts the musician quite a lot. Like they really get inspired to make different musics, and they're also more um uh, they're more free to let the music breathe a little bit, because the light just also takes a lot of power in every sound that they make. So they start to play a little bit more minimalistic and more free, but
Sure, the the,
they're
the, the toolbox affects the art that they make. We've
yeah.
had a lot of conversations about that on this podcast. How like the tools influence the art, influences the
Yeah,
tools. It's a cycle.
yeah. Wait, let me just shove up the webcam a little bit so you can see.
Man, I wish we were recording this video. We could put that online too.
Yeah, can we do that in a way?
Nah, dude. This is only the 11th episode of this podcast. I'm still
Yeah,
trying to get especially this remote thing. Like this to me feels actually very natural because I can see your face.
yeah,
And in the
exactly. Yeah,
past, when I've done these like remote things, it's like you're just talking into a microphone, staring out a window or something,
yeah,
and this is a much more natural way to have a conversation. But yeah, I really do need to start recording the video.
yeah.
This
Well, of
is the
course,
first time that I've done video and audio at the same time.
yeah,
So
it's not essential, but if we do it another time with video, I'll give you um a performance here with the music and the light. That's also one reasons why we created this studio, is to really do more tests with this audio to light yeah, convergence, or how should I call it. But let's get back to that topic, because I think it's really interesting, and one of the main things that we are trying to develop.
do you want to
Because
have a Zoom dance party?
yeah, to have a Zoom dance party.
Let's have a
Let's
Zoom
just
dance party.
everybody join. Yeah. No, so uh, yeah, but also, yeah, also maybe towards okay, so one of the things that I was thinking a lot about when graduating, it actually um, has some same things with this whole virtual dancing or virtual festival discussion. It's like, okay, so I got questions from this venue, and they wanted to integrate new technologies in their club venue, and they were thinking about artificial or virtual reality and augmented reality and all stuff like that. And I was really like, no, what we need is to make the experience that we feel right there in that moment. That's what we need to enhance, this feeling of relatedness, this feeling of discovering new things, new creative things. And there's
It's the
still,
feeling of connectedness. That's like the secret sauce to any event, right? It's like that feeling of like yeah, connectedness
yeah, connectedness to other people, but also, like, I
to the
think,
music and performance.
yeah, but that also lets you connect to other people directly or indirectly. Like when
Hmm.
I think that also goes way back to when we didn't have like clothing and cars and whatever to express ourselves, and people were making music. When they had tribes thousands of years ago, people were making music, and people could either join this making of music and maybe dance to it, and that would be a really big self-expression for them in
Well,
the
don't you
tribe.
think that's the whole point of the festival is like is to get back to that place. You know,
Exactly.
like a music festival, especially. It seems like you're really dialed into the festival scene in
Yeah.
Europe and on the West Coast in California and the West Coast of the United States. There's a very strong festival scene, and it's different music. Europeans are very into psytrance. I've learned this, but
Yeah. You
different music, same
Psytrance?
vibe. But
Nah,
I
yeah.
don't
It's
know.
it's different. Like I'm really in the, yeah, how do you I wouldn't say the techno scene, but it's like they do a lot of techno now. Italo disco and disco-ish stuff was really coming up, but now it's like electro and breakbeat. It's a lot of different stuff that they play around here, and it's really interesting. It's all like, of course, influenced by Berlin and by London, and it's this whole big triangle of um yeah, cultural places that influence each other. And here in the
I'll tell
Netherlands,
you what, man.
sorry.
Next year, let's do a we should do like a festival work trade program or like a festival like study abroad.
Oh
You
yeah.
come over to the West Coast and do some festivals, and I'll come over there. And yeah, the festivals that you guys have done are super impressive. I was looking through your portfolio. Toronto Light Festival. I've always wanted to go to that.
Yeah,
What's Into the
it's
Woods?
Into the Woods is, yeah, that's one of my favorites. Like, Into the Woods is a pretty small festival. It's 2 days, 12,000 people. But it's, yeah, dead center in the woods somewhere in the middle of the Netherlands, and it's organized by like the best crew that I've ever met. Is just all fun people, honest people, and they just want to uh, give creativity to whoever works at their festival, and help them create. And yeah, you just get total freedom and a lot of enthusiasm, and that really reflects in the festival itself. So
That's awesome.
it's not real, like you see a lot of festivals here in the Netherlands, and they really try hard to be something like
Yeah,
Mantel. They really try hard to be like the ambassadors of the best music in the Netherlands. And then you have digital, which they want to be the best in the green and the sustainable, etc. And then you have Draaimolen or whatever, and they want to be the best in scenography. But uh, Into the Woods is really like, we don't want to be the best. We just want the people who create the festival. We want them to feel the best about what they're doing at our festival.
I
So
like festivals like that, man, because they're not pretentious. You know, there's no pressure. You know, it's like a good group of people. It's a good venue, and it's a good experience.
yeah.
Is it camping Into the Woods? Did you
Um,
camp out?
no, like yeah, we do as a crew, but they also have another festivals called Wildeburg. Now I think they had 3 editions. The fourth, no, or 3 or 4 editions, and the fourth or the fifth should be in a couple of months. But I don't think we will make that. But that's their second festival, and that's a camping festival. So that's 3 days in a row, 24/7. Let's go, and that's
Yeah.
like I'm fully sure that that's like one of the best festivals that the Netherlands have to offer, because it's just crazy. Like everything around there is filled with art, and it just feels authentic. It every detail just is right.
What's it called?
Wildeburg. It's like wild village.
Dude, I'm coming next year, right? If they have it, assuming they have it.
Yeah, like that's also one of the funny things. They have, I think this year they plan to have 15,000 visitors, and they sell almost yeah, 4 times as much tickets. Or they don't actually
Mhm.
sell them, but they have like this lottery, and people should enroll, and then randomly people get chosen. So like
Oh well, I'm going with you
60.
guys, so I'll be
Yeah,
all
yeah,
set.
okay, yeah, that's of course a possibility. Then you just join our crew, and we will make a crazy station out, like, because that's like 1.5 week, 2 weeks of just, yeah, going crazy. And we always do one light artwork, and we do one stage.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just amazing to work there, and to be in the crowd, and to
I
just,
like to work festivals, man. It's nice to have a sense of purpose. You know what I mean? To have a mission.
yeah.
you know, this would have been my 10th year at Burning Man, which got canceled this year. But
Yeah,
every year I've gone, I've had some art project that I've worked on, or something. It's nice, you know, because it's like you're there, but you're sharing your art. You're like building something with a group of people. You have a community.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's fun. I like experiencing festivals in that way.
Yeah, and I was always wondering because at Toronto Light Festival they have a lot of artists that come from Burning Man, if I can say like that. They've done art at Burning Man, and everybody
Mhm.
out there just loves Burning Man. Like when you go to Toronto Light Festival, and everybody's just talking about Burning Man, and it's lovely because all of these people are really lovely. But then me as a European just is just what is this thing about Burning Man? You know, I know, of course, I know it, and I know it has to be really awesome, but I also think it's really different to what we usually do here in Europe or the Netherlands. It's just really different, and I think it's a fun experiment. Like you come with me to Wildeburg, and I'll go to you to with you to whatever festival you think is cool in
Come to
America.
Burning Man. Burning Man's not. It's Burning Man's funny, man. It's like it is a very cool festival. Um, it's also like it's a mixed bag, like everything. But Burning Man is so big and it's so hyped that it's a real mixed bag, you know, because
Yeah,
you probably have in your mind your own assumptions about Burning Man, which are probably totally wrong. Like, you know, there's no way to
predicted.
wrap your head around it. Yeah, until you get there. But
Yeah,
it's also like, you know, it's super annoying and it's also the funnest festival ever. And it's also you can feel super isolated sometimes, but it's, you know, you can be around your best. It's everything.
yeah,
And it's hard to explain. But
yeah.
you should definitely come. You should definitely experience it. And yeah, man, if you go, make sure you let me know because I'll yeah, come hang,
Yeah,
give you some pointers.
yeah. When we do, I will I will hit you up. I don't know if it will be next year or the year after, but it should be one of those. Like we've been hearing about this for so long, and we just have to do it.
Yeah, man. Well, the thing is, if you're like a useful person and you are a talented person and you make cool things, eventually you'll end up there. Somebody will give you a ticket. There, you know what I mean? It's like there's always a way to get to Burning Man. You just have to like somebody has to like bring you into their project.
Yeah,
So whether you go as Loomis or you go as Timo or you go as part of another project,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like there's so many ways to get to Burning Man and to do it and not spend like a ton of money just
yeah.
by being a useful, talented person.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think it will just yeah. I think it will turn out fine. But we still have our installation that we expose at Toronto Light Festival. It's still in Toronto, and
Yeah,
we're making a plan for it. But I can see it happening that it just stays there in America until next year, and then maybe when it's around, we just take it to Burning Man and yeah, go
yeah.
together with some friends, go there, see. Yeah,
Well, listen, man. If you yeah, so it's installed permanently in Toronto
no,
now.
no, no,
It's just
it's
like
stored. It's just in a storage space
oh yeah.
because
Tell me about that. So how did it's a really beautiful sculpture. It almost looks like a three-dimensional cross, right? And it's covered in lighting elements.
yeah,
And is it projection or is it just LED? It's hard to
it's
tell from these pictures.
it's just LED. Yeah, you should see a video, but um, it's like a convergence of a couple of things that we really like to do, and one of those is tensegrity. So, are you familiar with tensegrity? What it is?
Yeah, yeah. For people who are not looking at this picture, it's almost like a set of steel frame pillars that
Yeah,
are interwoven with each other and suspended using wire rope so that it looks like these pillars are floating inside each other
yeah,
or tangled
exactly.
up with each
So they're like rectangular cuboids, you call them. So it's like a cube, but then rectangular, and
other.
they stick inside each other. And at every corner of the cuboid they connect with each other through steel cables, and that's how they form integrity. That's like it's similar to a tripod when you have a tensegrity construction. So tensegrity is a construction method where you have um, you have like pillars or compression elements, and you have tension elements, and the compression and the tension elements are balanced in a way so the structure itself gets integrity. um,
Yeah.
that's essentially
It's
what the
delicate and like it looks like I've seen installations that use that principle that they're like very delicate but they're like enormous and heavy, but it looks like very precarious, and it's all
uh,
about balance. It's like
actually,
it's this like contrast between like massive, bulkiness and delicate balance.
yeah, but the thing is, like, that's why I really like to use it, because it's actually not that heavy. And you
It's
and
convenient
when
for installation.
Yeah, exactly, for festivals it has a great potential because um initially, tensegrity was invented as a method to make maximum aesthetic value with minimum materials. It's invented by Kenneth Snelson, and then later on, it was like pushed to the outside world by Buckminster Fuller. He was an American architect, inventor, whatever. And
Yeah,
so when I read about it and I saw like, okay, so maximum aesthetic value with the minimum use of material, that's essentially what you would like to have at festivals, for example, because you would
right.
like to transport stuff, and when you make it, you want it to look as beautiful as possible. um,
Yeah.
so that's why we made our first installation in 2016, which was a 30-meter long tensegrity installation. It was like, tensegrity wise, that was incredibly complex. It had like
Which one is that? I'm looking at is that
luminous,
moving lights?
no, luminous.
Luminous.
Yeah,
All right, yeah, I'm looking at that now on your site, and so that's also tensegrity.
yeah,
This almost looks like when you take a handful of jacks and you throw them on the floor, and it's just like you know what I mean. It's like those like cross structures,
yeah,
but each
exactly.
one of those is a lit pillar, a lit pole,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's beautiful. I was looking at that. Looks like you redeployed that in 2018.
yeah.
Yeah,
We've done a couple of festivals with it. So it was originally made for Glow Festival here in the Netherlands, and then we went to Lowlands with it, which is a larger festival, and then Into the Woods. And then actually, when the first time we took Luminous to Into the Woods, that's a little bit where it took off for us. Um,
mm,
and yeah, we connected to the guys of Into the Woods, and from that point on, we just yeah went to make other kinds of installations and do different stuff, and that tensegrity principle together with like fusing or really using the structural elements also as a diffuser and as a reflector. So what you see at the installation in Toronto, for example, is every cuboid is made out of aluminium profiles, and the LED strips are really like tucked into the aluminium profiles. So the aluminum really reflects the light. So you don't really
it looks almost like there's an infinity mirror at the end of each pillar.
yeah
To
there
me, just by looking at the pictures, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, there is. It's like this double infinity mirror, so you can also watch through it, and that's a little bit the brain fuck with the infinity mirror thing, because yes, it's an infinity mirror, but you can also look through it.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so you just get like infinitely infinite, because you look from one infinity mirror to the other one at the other side of the construction, and you see this whole cuboid thing um yeah duplicating
It's
itself.
infinite infinities.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's
god.
like a lot of infinities within this installation, but um usually, like, I'm not a really big fan of infinity mirrors. It's like
They can be
recently.
cool in the right. I agree, they're overused, but they can be cool
Yeah,
in the right application. And I think that this is an example of a very cool use of infinity mirrors.
yeah, thanks. That's good to hear,
So
because it's you have to be careful with that and not make it feel cheesy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It,
um, I was gonna ask you if this has to be a freestanding installation or can you hang it? It
yeah, you
looks like
can hang it.
it gets you can.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
Like that's
That's a shame that it's sitting in a warehouse, man.
a what? Huh?
It's a shame that it's
Yeah.
sitting in storage.
Yeah, if you know anything, it's just sitting there, and we love to set it up somewhere else for short
Cool.
time, longer time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say like so we our space here is called the Lumen Labs, and it's like a light art gallery space, and it would be cool to display it at the labs for a little while and like have an event around it. You know what I mean? Like if you guys, I don't know how often you come to the States, but if you were in California,
Hmm.
we can install this at the labs. We've got very high ceilings, and you could do a like a mixed lighting audio performance
Yeah,
underneath this thing. It'd be cool.
yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, also to use it as a like. Actually, that's one of the only installations that we have that works standalone. So it's fully programmed on three Teensy 4.0s that are inside.
Yeah,
So usually we just use Alpha tags and we just run SACN or ArtNet or whatever from the computer to the Alpha tag. But this was like one of the only installations that we were like, let's just make it standalone. Of course, we can make a new controller box for it and have it respond to whatever ArtNet signal we send to it. But it will be cool to do that.
well, there's something to be said for both those things. Like I digital ambience has done used both those paradigms in our installations before.
Yeah,
We work with a crew called Photonic Bliss, and they have a system. It's basically it's almost like a media server that runs on a microcontroller, and that media server all it does is generate waveforms that run along linear strips of LED,
yeah,
right? But you can deploy multiple of these, and then you can control those media servers with DMX. So like there's a handle for amplitude, there's a handle for hue, there's a handle for blending mode, and you
yeah.
can
That's cool.
create waveforms. Yeah, and you can record those shows
Yeah,
and then play them back in a standalone way. But the real complexity for in my mind anyway comes when you're using like a lighting control environment. You know, we've used Madrix in the past. Now we use Smode, but Cinema 4D or whatever it is you're using to
hmm,
do like complex mapping. That's really a PC thing.
yeah. Complex mapping is a PC thing. Why I chose Teensies for this particular installation because it has interaction, so you can touch the infinity panels and then the installation responds to it. So
Yeah,
we almost certainly needed a computer in there. And yeah,
yeah.
when you have the Toronto or whatever environments, it's just a killer to have a computer in there. And
Oh yeah,
when you run it on Teensies, you can just receive the sensor data and just make a light image or generate lighting data and just in the same cycle, so you don't have to communicate to whatever device, so it's really direct, it's just immediate. And for
yeah.
interaction,
Interactivity. It's a really interesting. It's a whole bag of worms. It's like a really interesting topic to get into with lighting because it's it's there and it's like within reach. You can make things interactive, but I've found it's really hard to make installations interactive in like a tasteful and compelling way and not like a like a cheesy or like kitschy way. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like a lot of interactivity you see just doesn't translate.
yeah,
And it's cool when you see people who or see installations where it really is done in a tasteful way.
yeah, yeah. It's like always this finding a balance between what's tasteful and what do people understand, when is the feedback right, because
Right, exactly. It's a
because
big
when
part of it.
people touch it and like this thing just emits red light or whatever, it just blinks red like burp burp burp, then you get the right feedback, but then it's that ugly. And when you make it like when you touch it and then it's suddenly starts to flow and everything, and yeah, then people don't get this immediate feedback and they don't understand what's happening or what they're doing. So
If
what
it's too
we
complex. it can go over people's heads. And if it's too simple, yeah, I mean, it's a balance,
Yeah,
is really what it comes down to.
yeah,
It's a balance of complexity and a balance of aesthetics.
yeah. And one of the solutions that I'm exploring for myself is to have like um different stages of feedback, or different parts that give different kinds of feedback. So within this installation, we have the part where you actually touch it, which is a really small part of the panel, and that gives you direct feedback from, okay, so when you touch it, it just glows red a little bit harder. So that gives you this direct feedback, and then everything around it starts to build up a little bit quicker, and
Yeah,
then the whole installation responds to it after a while. So you have this, okay, something is working, and then okay, something more is happening, and then okay, so this is what I'm doing. And
that's cool, man. So it builds over time, and
yeah,
that also keeps it from being too frenetic. You know what I mean? A lot of times you see it's very easy to make interactive installations too too flashy, you know, because it's too like jerky almost. I don't know how else to explain it, but the motion, the interactivity is too it's too much, and it's cool that in your piece you let it build.
yeah, yeah. Still, I don't think I think it's still far from perfect, and I think we can go. Yeah, there's still a lot to learn when it comes to interactivity. That was actually the thing that I graduated with at industrial design. Yeah, designing interactive light installations for festivals. But it's, yeah, I've done a couple of big interactive installations, and all of them weren't like perfect. And it's exactly
No, I
like,
mean, what is perfect? You
yeah,
know, I
it's
think
true.
like any
It's
art is that it's a process, right? It gets
exactly,
better. It's like I'm sure you'll be working on this thing for years to come. You know, every
yeah,
time you play, you'll like tweak it.
yeah, exactly. But that's why I love it, and I just keep on trying and keep on trying. And the festivals love it too, and the people at the festivals love it too, because when you, for example, Glow here in Eindhoven is a festival, and as much as they would like to have interactive parts, a lot of it is projection, and projection can be really good. But when everything is projection, or almost everything, is just okay, we know the trick, and then you go to the next project, and then okay, it's another projection, and you know the trick, and people want to have a little bit of a switch in there. You cannot do
Well,
only
that, I think that's
projection, or
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that projection mapping is a trick that it's well known now. People understand it. It's not novel as it used to be. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think that having like a mixed display of sculptural art and light art and projection art, those are the ingredients that make a successful arts festival.
yeah, I agree, yeah.
And music, obviously.
And music, yeah. So that's what we tried last edition of Glow. We did Sync, which yeah, was built on the syncing of sound or music and light. And the experiment that we were trying there is, a, how does the general public respond to this, because there's like children and grandmas and grandpas walking around at Glow, and it was really fun to see how they would react to really this club vibe, this club experience.
There's no video of this on your website. I was looking at it earlier and I wanted to see
There,
a video.
there is a video on YouTube of it, and we will share a video really soon on our Instagram and Facebook. We still didn't post it. It's pretty stupid, but whatever.
It
Um,
looks like a really cool environment. It looks like you've got a bunch of moving headlights, and then you've got a bunch of LED tiles essentially suspended from the ceiling,
yeah,
uh, and that's your canvas. Yeah.
yeah. We had a lot of stuff hanging in there. So we had, I think, 72 of our LED bars, 2 meter long, double-sided LED bars. 20
Yeah.
of the LED panels, so they're double-sided black acrylic panels. And we had tubes, I think something like 30 LED tubes, diffuse tubes, six moving heads, blinders, whatever. It was awfully much, and I would never do it like that again, because it was just too much of everything and nothing was really speaking to the form that we needed for the for the audience. It was just a mixture of
Mhm.
too much, but it was great to experiment with. And like one of the challenges was um, to create a system where musicians, live artists, would come during the day, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they would set up their equipment, and I would just like plug in some XLRs or audio jacks in their equipment, have the audio signals or have some MIDI signals, and they would just play, and I would have to visualize all of this data that I would get in, and from there I would have to make my synchronized show. So really,
Oh wow! So in real time, you were trying to connect the. Had you heard it before? Was there any like rehearsal, or were you just like on the fly? I'm gonna just
yeah, it was on the
map what
fly.
the
Like, of course, I knew from some of the artists or most of the artists, I knew what they were making, but and I asked them before, like, okay, so what kind of gear are you bringing, just to make sure that I had the right cables and everything. But from when they were there, they were just playing. So there was this guy, for example, he brought this huge modular system, and then there was one guy who had this really tiny, crazy electron device. I still don't know what it was exactly, but it had like six outputs, six audio outputs. So I would just plug all six outputs of that device into my audio interface, and just with that synthesizer we would just play for like 2 hours, and we would get really powerful stuff out of it, and that was the
Well,
fun.
then maybe that's why you said it was too much, right? And it sounds like without rehearsal, it would be really hard to strike the right balance between too much too much stimulus, like lighting stimulus, too much going on your canvas, and not enough. And it's like it sounds like this was an amazing experiment, right? I
Yeah,
mean, because you were able to take this really complex canvas and then try and map audio to it in real time. But
yeah.
I can totally see how that could just get overwhelming, and especially if it wasn't like a rehearsed. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time, because I think it's better for because all of the LED elements are pretty outspoken in a way, as they're sculptural, and when you have a couple of elements that all try to be sculptural and outspoken in this context, they are starting to fight with each other. um,
Yeah.
or you have to make a really good and nice design, but we didn't really have the time or the materials or the flexibility to do that. But I think it's better to really focus on one element, one main element, make that big and diverse and whatever, and then try to add like the soft bed. So now usually we just add a couple of P5 wall washes, so you have this just wall of color.
Immersive feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
you got to do
support it.
something to make the environment to tie the rest of the room into the performance.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's interesting. I like that. Making a single sculptural element be the focus of the performance, and then subtle things that tie the room in.
Exactly, because this all of the individual elements did work in the room, like they reflected the architecture and the shape of the room, and they were in line with um with yeah, all of the different elements were in line with each other, but then in the end they weren't really working together as we expected. But that's
Well,
why we
experiment.
learned. Yeah, exactly, it was an experiment, and we just did it as a, yeah, it was like for free essentially. We did it with minimum money, and just because we wanted to see how Glow would respond to it, and the audience of Glow, and we got a lot of great responses. It was funny to see.
And that's so Glow is a light art festival in the Netherlands.
Yeah, in Eindhoven.
Cool.
And
Yeah, I
that's
want to go to that.
because we work, like most of our work is in Amsterdam. um so that's always, for everything that we do we have to go to Amsterdam, almost everything. Um,
Sure.
so we just want to do something here in Eindhoven, because I can just roll out of my bed, walk 5 minutes, and start programming or start hanging lights or do whatever instead of like going to Amsterdam or crashing in Amsterdam for weeks, which is fun
How
at
far away are you from Amsterdam?
1.5 hour, so it's fine. But
That's not the end of the world, but
now for
yeah, I
you,
can
for
see
you
how it's,
guys, you're more used to it. Here in the Netherlands, it's
well, it's like for us, it's like, we go down to LA. Like that's the thing. It's like LA is about 6.5, 7 hours
yeah,
away.
exactly. That's when I'm in
But it's
Italy
okay,
normally.
man. You just put in your headphones, you listen to 6.5 podcasts, and you're there.
Yeah, that's true. No, but I usually I just go to Amsterdam almost every week, and we're also doing the lighting design for a club there. It's called Lofi. It's I think now a year or something that is going, that is active, and
And are you doing a redesign for the lighting, or are you doing it from scratch?
so what we did is we built some custom elements in the space. So they had this.
Mhm.
It was this old car garage, and they had this huge Y pillars or columns in the middle. So we enclosed them with black acrylic and put a lot of LEDs in there, and that was like the main element. And it's all you can also find it on the website, some pictures of how it looks. So we took some custom LED ingredients in there, and we just filled it up a little bit with just normal LED bars and some moving heads and some washes and blinders.
Is
Just
this on Mysteryland that you're talking about? Is it
no, Luffy. It's when
Lofi?
you go to category other or all. It's like this red
Yeah, yeah,
picture.
yeah. It's titled Mysteryland on your website.
Mysteryland? No. Lofi, like lo-fi.
Huh. Yeah, yeah, no, whatever. Anyway, I can. I think I see a picture of it here. It's very cool. It's a very cool concept.
Yeah, and so that's like where we play a little bit with the performance, because it all of these systems, they work on light jams. So also the sync, this interactive music live experience, and Lofi, it all runs on light jams, and sometimes a combination of light jams and ELM.
Interesting. So, is light jams like your weapon of choice? Is that your environment that you do most of your programming in?
Yeah, like almost everything.
Yeah. Now that guy, he's from the Netherlands, right? What's
No,
his name?
no, from Montreal.
Is he from Montreal? I thought he was from the Netherlands. It's weird. What's his name though?
Mathieu.
Do you remember?
I don't know his
Yeah,
surname
like
actually, but Mathieu something.
yeah,
But
because he was working with NTech for a little while, and that's where ELM came from.
yeah,
And I've,
exactly.
I've used ELM. It seems it's analogous to Madrix in a way. My problem with all of those systems is well, it's not even a problem. It's just they're not truly three-dimensional environments. You know what I mean? Right now we're using a system it's basically a game engine almost, and you
Yeah,
can just throw your point cloud of LEDs into it and then generate particle effects that run through them.
yeah,
It's cool.
yeah. That's I was also talking about that with another light artist, Boris, that I work with a lot. And yeah, it's because Mathieu is now also programming 3D functionality for ELM, but that's essentially, it's always the problem with 3D software is how do you generate or how do you make the content? Because when you
Yeah,
do it
well,
with video, then it
it's
gets
two-dimensional by nature.
it's two-dimensional by nature. So now within ELM, they solve it by making a layer for your front view and then your side view and then your top view. Like essentially, you can just throw videos everywhere you want, but it's the best practice to make a front view, side view, and top view, and then you can have different modes in which they blend.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, that's very interesting. That is the problem that you have to figure out. You have to like choose a paradigm or a set of paradigms.
yeah,
I like the if you're going to use a 3D array, if you're making a three-dimensional canvas, you got to make three-dimensional content.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
And
agree.
somehow it's like particle effects or a 3D model. or some kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
some kind of volumetric
Boris was
content.
talking about, for example, when you have a sheet and you can just apply magnets, or you pull it or whatever, or you make it a little bit more, you make it loosen up, and you have different indeed paradigms or simulation mechanisms that you can use to create it. And I think it's when there's a software that can efficiently simulate all kinds of different natural movements in a way. So, for example, when you have blobs or sheets of um, elastic fibers or particles or whatever, and where you can simulate those effectively with magnets and gravity and just pushing and pulling and forces, that would be awesome.
Yeah, man, you should look into Smode. You really should.
Yeah,
It's got a decent physics engine. It's pretty cool software, and it's free. You can
it's it's
use not for pixel mapping, but for it started out as a projection
projection. Yeah,
mapping software, and we've kind of been working with the developers to push it more into the direction of like LED pixel mapping. But
yeah,
yeah, it's cool. It's almost like Cinema 4D crossed with After Effects, crossed with a game engine, crossed with a pixel mapping
yeah,
engine. It's cool.
yeah. But um, like,
It's very French, and the guys who write it are very
very
French. So
French. Well, my surname is French, so
there you go.
yeah, and luckily one of the guys who always who also works with us, he's also pretty good at speaking French, so we might have a good step ahead over there. But
Well,
um,
then you can watch tutorials, which gives you a leg up for,
yeah,
right off the bat.
Timothy has to learn everything and tell me everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's
No,
pretty
but
intuitive though. You start playing with it, you get to know it fairly
but
quickly.
is it because of course you can also do it with Touch Designer, but the problems that
Touch
I had,
design,
yeah, or
yeah.
then GeoPix, which is of course.
I've never used GeoPix, but that's based on Touch Designer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And my problem
That was
always with Touch Designer has been performance. You just need a
the,
fucking big ass computer to make it work, and yeah, I never really got into it because of that reason. I was always so quickly limited because my computer was just running overload, and that's one of the reasons why I love ELM and light gems, especially light gems. I mean, ELM is because it links with Ligem in a pretty convenient way. Otherwise, it wasn't really my weapon of choice for what I do. It's not really.
so in that configuration, then Light Jams is producing the content. ELM is your mapping engine. Is that right?
Yeah, so I use it in three different ways. So either I just use light gems as it is. So, for example, I have some moving heads and light gems, some smaller LED fixtures, and some blinders. And then I have a grid within light gems that generates content for ELM, because
Yeah.
everything we do is sequence based. So I made a like a it's essentially a advanced waveform generator that just generates waveforms on a sequenced as a sequencer, and sends it with OSC. So you can
Code that inside Light Jams. I
no
know
it's,
you can
that's
write
that's in
your effects.
processing. That's in processing.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's a lot of code. So that's one of the things that we use. That's actually like our main um our main
Instrument.
content generator for Ligems and ELM. So I throw that data in Ligems, and that generates all the effects. But then I make a big grid, which is just 127 universes of pixels mapped, like just dimmers,
Yeah.
in a square grid, and then I just generate content on that with Ligems, and it sends the ArtNet data to ELM, and then I can just see this little bit low resolution uh, canvas that I just um, generated, and that's where I then mix it with different videos. So it's really good to get some textures or to get pulses and stuff like that that respond to the music, and then
Yeah,
I just mix it with the video content of ELM to get the right colors and the right movement, and it's an interesting mix. So
that's
that's
a really cool. That's a cool workflow, man. I'd love to like watch you do a set sometime. I loved how like everybody's got a different workflow. You know, it's everybody's style is so different.
yeah, that's and I think the main difference or the biggest difference between doing lighting as we do it and doing lighting with a Grande May or whatever is the sequencer, because everything, if the sequencer crashes, essentially nothing works. And
Mhm.
that's why it becomes I can make little details within the if I hear a little detail in the music, I can just recreate it on the sequencer. And um and yeah, it's just, yeah, you really have to see it to know what it does. But essentially it's not one sequencer, it's 8 sequencers. So there's 8 sequencers.
And your LFOs, your sequencers are LFOs that are running out of processing and feeding
No, it's not.
into.
It's not LFOs. It's so it's like a 16 or a 32 step sequencer, and then when it gets to a step, it just pulses the OSC to from 0 to 127. But I can also make a slope with it, so I can make it a fade in, and I can give it a decay, and I can give it a release.
And I
Um,
see how that works in the videos. I can see in the videos that you've published how that corresponds. That's cool.
yes, you can really quickly make the dynamics of the lighting correspond to the music. You know, when a kick just feels really direct and pushy, you just make it
Hmm.
just put the attack on 0, give it a little bit of release, and that's it. When it's more broad out, you just give it a little bit more attack and you put a little bit more release on it, and it's just instant. You don't have to go into any programmers or whatever. It's just buttons. and
Yeah.
um and yeah, that's, you're just really quick. And when you hear a specific sound, like, okay, now you have a double clap on every whatever, and every 8 notes you have a double clap there, then you just go to, okay, moving heads, that's group 6, you go to group 6, push in the double clap, and there you go.
Wow, man. Yeah, I want to see that. That's such a cool workflow.
Because
Sounds
that's,
like such a cool system.
yeah. And I'm now making a GUI interface for it, so a graphical user interface, because that's um when it comes to Grand Maze, it's just touchscreens and a lot of rows of buttons and faders. And
Well, there comes a point where if you're trying to make a tool, you know, you make the tool in a way that works for you, the creator, but to share that tool, you have to make it accessible. You know what I mean? And having a good GUI is the doorway for that. You know, a lot of the tools that we've used have been developed specifically for individual projects that we work on, and only now we're experimenting with releasing those tools. And the biggest roadblock to that is the development of a GUI that makes intuitive sense, that still gives users access to the the meat of the tool,
mhm.
but is easy enough to accessible enough so that people can pick it up quickly.
Yeah, nowadays GUIs are the yeah, what you say, the meat of the tool. What were you saying? Like
It's a
it's
doorway.
it's
It's a
it's
doorway that
it's
allows people
it's
to have access to the tool.
it's the core, but a lot of companies also get lost in it. Like, okay, so now we can make a GUI that can do everything, and
Right.
that's what happened to Grande May. You know, they made a machine, they made a 14,000 euro machine that could literally do everything that you want.
Well,
Um,
14,000 is on the low end for a Grand MA, my
for
friend.
for T
Oh, 40. Yeah, I was
forty
just gonna
thousand.
say.
Yeah. No, so and that's what I really love about the music industry is you have thousands of different devices that you can just, that are not really costly, so you can start really small. and then you can just expand your setup to whatever you want to do with it. And I think
And you
that's,
can mix and match.
yeah, you
You
can
can
mix
take
and
different
match.
tools from different
Like
parts and make like one complex system.
you don't ever see a musician be like, hey, I just take this keyboard and then I go on stage and then I can do everything that I want. No, they want to make whatever they want to make. They want to make their sound in that specific moment and
And
with
that's an
speed.
example of how the toolkit affects the music that's produced.
Exactly.
And really, it's like the music that's produced is a direct result of the combination of tools that are used to produce it. And
Yeah.
there's so many tools to make music that, yeah, it's a much more diverse ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think it's a better ecosystem because uh, as a company, I think when you design control products, you have to make a decision like, okay, what does this specific machine needs to do best? And of course, it needs a level that people can set it up for themselves and they can make little changes in a menu or whatever. But you have to make a decision like what's the core functionality of this piece, and then what's the core functionality of that piece, and as an ecosystem, how what kind of output can that generate. And that's what I think is the biggest pity about lighting consoles. It's because it's not like, hey, can we combine that and that and that? It's like, no, you either use this or you either use that.
So proprietary. I, tr- I try and stay away from those systems though, man. I haven't used a lighting desk to do to produce content for an installation in a very long time. Like not since I was touring have I used a Grand MA. And Grand MA is a great tool, but um, I, like you, definitely do not like being stuck in somebody's sandbox. And I like cobbling together kits of tools specific to the project I'm working on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I like the NTech stuff, or not NTech, the Advotech, the Pixelites,
Yeah.
because it's just a great tool that you can throw into whatever installation you're working on, and then you can use any content generation system to push content through it.
It's exactly what I was just saying. Like, they just made a decision. Like, what we want our products to do is when you push an ArtNet or when you push an SACN, we just want to have a lot. We just want to control a lot of LEDs, and
Yeah,
they just picked their battle, because I know there's a lot of other controllers that you can buy, and some of them are way more expensive, and maybe they can do different kinds of stuff. Like, there's this company here in Eindhoven, and they're also developing their uh, controllers, and they have, I think it's a 16 universe controller, and it costs €1,000.
yeah, I know them. It's funny, man. It's like yeah, just give me a raw circuit board. I'll put it in whatever I want to put it
Ex-
in, you know. But
yeah.
that only works for us because we're you know we're nerds.
Yeah, exactly. That works for us because I love building the enclosures, and I our our enclosures are like rock solid, and we just push them everywhere. Water or wind or cold or doesn't really matter. Uh,
You know what I did? You know what I did once? I literally took one of the four output Advotech boards
yeah.
and I potted it in epoxy. I like
Really?
made an epoxy ice cube. I'm like, great, now this is an outdoor controller. It works great.
Yeah, yeah. You could do that. Yeah. Now we.
Judging by the lack of phone calls from the client, I'm assuming it still works. So,
Where did you install it?
oh man, where the fuck was that? It
It's
was
it's an outside
it
installation,
was
or
yeah, it wasn't in a super cold area, but it was in a ocean side.
yeah,
It was like outdoor. It wasn't underwater, but it was like,
salt
you get the
and
salt water,
yeah.
air, and it was just like, how are we going to make this thing not degrade? I mean, if it ever does die, we'll have to replace the entire thing, but it's like, whatever.
Just put it in epoxy and.
Yeah, it's just pour epoxy resin over it.
Yeah, if it works, just pour it in epoxy and it will stay like that. Now,
Exactly. You frozen it in time.
but to go back to the Advatec, I visited them because when I was done in Toronto with the light installation, I went to Australia, and it was funny because my sister, she lives in Australia, and she lives like 23 minutes from the Advatech office. So I was like, okay, then I'll take a drive to Advatech, and I was sitting there with Greg, who introduced me to you, and
Yeah.
he asked me like, so what do you like Advatech? And I was like, yeah, it's just cheap, and it just or not cheap. That's the wrong word to say. That's great value.
Oh, it is. It's inexpensive. They are inexpensive
Yeah,
tools
it's
for what they
inexpensive
offer,
with great value,
and they
but
just
they
work.
just work, you know. And I
Yep.
never one never broke down. And he was like, yeah, just that's what everybody says. Like, okay, they just work because some
We
other.
found a firmware bug in their software. You know that?
Sorry,
We found a firmware bug
really?
in their, yeah, man.
What did he do?
It was crazy. What was it? It was when you output. What was it? Okay. Um, hopefully they're okay with me talking about this, but whatever. It's when you would configure more than one output, physical output on the device to output the same universe. Like say you were sending universe one
Yeah,
to outputs like 1 and 6.
yeah,
It would output to either of those two physical outputs almost randomly, and we couldn't figure out like what the hell was going on. We had to pull the whole thing apart and like take a scope to it, and yeah, we figured it out. Anyway,
yeah,
it's like they are not infallible, but they are by far the most reliable LED controller that I've used,
yeah,
and especially for the price, it's just like hell yeah,
yeah,
definitely this is
yeah. I'm really
for all of
curious.
us.
They are going to release some more like pre-made products, like ready to
Well,
install
they need to,
products.
man. They need to because most people are not us. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most people, like if they want to get into the like the bigger market of architectural lighting, like no one's gonna put a circuit board in a,
No.
you know what I mean? Like people want something in a box.
Nobody's going
People
to
want
take
something to
epoxy and
yeah, exactly. That is not how like the majority of the the world thinks, and that's fine. And I think that that's a smart move on their end is to like try and become more client facing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. But
Yeah.
then again, just take the right decisions. But I think they are taking the right decisions, and they will still like when their new board releases, they will still just sell the PCB
Oh yeah, they
separately.
will. I
You
talked to
know?
Craig about that actually. I want to go visit them too. They're a very cool group of people.
Yeah,
It's a
I
cool
haven't met the
guys.
looks, but Greg was a really nice guy. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
ran into him at LDI, and we like hung out. We hung out at that conference. You know LDI, it's
Yeah,
like the Live Design International.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's cool.
yeah. No, I love it.
Hey, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna use the bathroom for like two
I'm
seconds,
going
and
to
then
grab a beer then.
okay, cool. I'll meet you back here in 5.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, cheers, brother. Cheers. It's too early for a beer here, but I
Yeah.
was like debating. I'm like, man, should I drink a beer? No, it's it's 2 p.m.
Oh well,
It's all right. Let's
it's
drink a
Monday.
yerba mate.
Monday
And
2 p.m. If it were a
it is.
Friday,
Man, who even knows? Who knows what day it is? This is COVID-19 time. Has no there are no days.
crazy stuff. Like I've just been working like 7 days in a week. Like
Yeah,
when I'm in a flow, it's really hard for me to break it. And now because usually every weekend I was going out to whatever club or festival or whatever. I was
yeah.
always away, and now it's just like I'm just at home all the time or over here. And
Man, for the time being, I'm finding ways that I enjoy the flow that this whole crisis has like put me in. You know what I mean? There's way less social pressure. It's not like, oh my God, who do I need to hang out with, or like what's on the calendar or whatever. It's a lot of focus on myself, and like I've been like running and working out a lot, and that feels great. And then yeah, it's just studio time.
yeah,
It's like a lot of uninterrupted studio time, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's it's really nice, and I've done a lot of productive things now. And like I was saying, like I was programming the GUI, and that was something that I've been thinking about for a year now. And every time it's like, oh, I really have to start on that. I really have to start on that. But it's just going to take weeks. And I'm like when I'm not in a coding vibe, it's really hard for me to get a lot of code done. It's not like
It's
I
a
can
different
take
mindset, huh?
yeah, it's not like I can take a half an hour or an hour and do some genius coding and then go back to whatever I was doing. I have to take a whole day, and I have to take days on days and days, and then I just go until late in the night. And I love it because it's just one big puzzle and one big challenge. And I
Yeah.
love coding, but you really have to get in that flow. And yeah,
So tell me more about the software that you're creating. So you use light jams and you use Elm and you use
processing.
processing.
Yeah.
Is what is your software and what does it do and like what environment are you programming it in?
What environment? You mean?
Like, are you programming in processing?
Yeah, yeah. Process
Okay.
like what I know best is processing and Arduino. So
Yeah.
some things that I'm programming and processing, I want to rewrite to Arduino because essentially a lot of the software that we use now for all of our live shows. So either it's just music festivals or all these live performances, these live audiovisual performances. Essentially, all of the processing code does a lot of MIDI talking. So they are the MIDI hub that receives the MIDI, that controls the MIDI controller, and that sends OSC values to Lightjams or ELM or wherever I need it to go. Um,
Mm,
and what's good about that is, for example, when you take a simple launch pad, you can make tabs on it. Because you can store like, oh, this is my moving head tab, and this is where I choose my effects, and this is where I choose my colors. So you can make multiple layers, just the same like a GUI, but then on a tangible user interface. And
yeah.
the same goes for the sequencer. Like it's a simple launch pad, and it's a simple launch control, like the small launch controls. But all of the intelligence of what this launch control does and what I put into it and what it outputs, it's all in processing. And you can just use simple and cheap MIDI controllers to do really complex automated stuff. So that's like the core of how we control everything. So
So
that's
is it a control protocol? Is it a tool to manipulate control protocol, or is it specifically geared towards lighting, or is it geared towards audio, or a mix?
um, usually for the music festivals, it's really specifically geared towards lighting. So,
Yeah.
for example, I have a color palette on my launchpad, so I can just choose whatever channel I want to change color, and then I can pick a color, and then I can choose an effect, or I can say, okay, this moving head is going to set another prism or whatever, and then the right launchpad is the sequencer, which I told about before, is 8 groups or 8 signals.
You're talking about the Launchpad, the hardware controller, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
yeah, just a normal launchpad.
Yeah.
So on the left, I have the sequencer, and that determines all the tempo based. So that's like, yeah, what tempo are we in, what BPM, how are the lights responding to it, and how are they dimming and everything on the rhythm. And then in the center, I have the mixing panel, which is a launch control XL. So that's just for controlling intensity, controlling textures on the LEDs, controlling movement of the moving heads, and I also program the record, like a recording function, so I can press record. I can change whatever to the whole setup, and it doesn't do. It's like a blind programming mode, so it records everything that I'm doing, and then I release it, and then it just fires all of the OSC values that I just created at once. so you can make a little bit more of a climax, whatever kind of stuff. So that's the setup for the music festivals, and then for these audiovisual shows. The first time it was primarily MIDI, so I took MIDI in processing and I visualized all of the, like, I could record incoming MIDI data, so I could filter out specific MIDI channels that I wanted to listen to. Then those MIDI channels and MIDI notes are visualized on the or on the launchpad, and then I could route this. So I could say, this MIDI data looks interesting. I'm going to route that to that lighting group, and I'm going to add a little attack or add a little release or whatever.
That's so
And
cool. So you're literally just you're routing control data
yeah, so
on the
like
fly,
I
using that as an instrument.
yeah, I think the main challenge for me is to like you have all of this data um at hand, every DJ or musician or whatever is creating a lot of data, either in their movements or the instruments or whatever.
It's
So
control data. It's data from the control surfaces. And what your system does is it translates, it allows you to take that control data and apply it to different instruments.
yeah, exactly. And the challenge is that is first visualize it. So first you have to pick whatever data you want to use, then you have to visualize it in a way so you can easily see, okay, where is the interesting data, what do I hear right now in the music, and how does that correspond to the data that I'm seeing in front of me. And then you should be able to pick the data to tweak it in a way that it becomes usable for the lighting, and then route it to whatever lighting effect you have programmed on before.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very cool concept, man. When you do your GUI, I want a beta. I want a beta test.
Yeah, I will. It will just be released on the website. I will give you. I will up you when the first. Is it's that one isn't really spectacular. It's just like for color. Yeah, just for color palettes and selecting effects and yeah, doing a lot of stuff with color essentially, and some moving head stuff. So that's like, yeah, the heart of the system a little bit, just everything that you want to do. But I think the sequencer and this um, audio analyzing and visualizing thing, those are the more special or the more unique uh, things within the
Yeah,
setup. But
that sounds that sounds the most interesting to me, listening to you describe that element of it. Because there's not a lot of software suites that allow you to really play with and visualize control data in that way.
no, like we want to make control surfaces that you play with light as you play with music. That's also what Lumis instruments stand for, because it's Lumis is actually yeah, luminous or lumens, and ludus, which is the playing human, and then of course instruments as in instruments. So it's actually like playing with light with instruments. And
Yeah,
that's what I that's what I focus on the most. And everything that I'm programming now, like especially all the software, because um, I can program, but it's not like my main quality. So everything that I program, I just want to release on the website. I'm going to make some tutorial videos for people to also go ahead and use it. I
yeah,
want to do that for
for sure.
free, and then
Yeah.
hopefully somebody one day will say, okay, this is really awesome, I'm just going to program it. um, the only thing
So
that I
is that going to go into the? You guys are making a product section for your website too. I noticed that you guys are really pushing towards the product, end of things. You're trying to make products.
yeah, products are the tools in making art, in our it's, yeah, it's with the tools and with the product you can make the end result. And a lot of lighting products now aren't really focused on art. and we try to focus a little bit more on what's the artistic side of how you want to implement this fixture or this control system or whatever, so it safeguards its authenticity. So one example, for example, one example of how we do that is separating the part that emits light, like the fixture itself, and the part that drives it as much as possible. We just
What do you mean?
when you have a lighting fixture, like all of the lighting fixtures are just LEDs in a structural element with a
Yeah.
connector or not, you know, just the connector and the LEDs, and all of the power supply and controllers and fuses and whatever, just do not even bother to push that into a fixture. Just try to make the fixture as beautiful and as diverse and as modular as possible, and all of the other electronics, just push it somewhere else.
So
But
are you selling your fixtures on your site? Are you trying to take some of these fixture designs that you produce for some of the different installations you've worked on and make them into products?
yeah, so that's one of our more long-term goals. Now I just put them on the website, a for people as inspiration, so they see a little bit. Okay, so this is what they make with all of these parts. Uh, People can contact us if they are interested in whatever. So either we can sell it directly to them, or we can make customized versions for them, because that's, for example, what we did for a couple of artists here in the Netherlands. They were like, okay, we need this installation with pillars, and we want to control it like this and that and that. And then we were like, okay, that's similar to our installation like that. So we just overhauled it a little bit, and yeah, made the technical product for them essentially.
It's
And
funny, man, because that's a problem that we've run into too. It's funny how like we all have the same basic problems and we decide to solve them in different ways. But the problem of how to take our business and make it not only just a design service where it's just every single project is completely unique and
yeah,
different, to having some kind of consistent recurring source of income, right?
yeah,
We're starting to sell products, but the products that we're going to start selling first are just custom LED strip,
yeah.
right? So basically, instead of trying to sell the fixtures themselves, it's just basically acting as a conduit to our manufacturers who we've been working with forever. So we
Hmm.
have like a really good manufacturer in China,
Yeah,
and we have a really good handle on the different options that you can have built into an LED product, right? Like chipset,
yeah.
color temperature, number of channels, you
Exactly.
know,
You have to know all of that stuff, and a lot of people have no clue on what most people, if they have any knowledge whatsoever about it, they're like, oh yeah, WS 20, 2812Bs, and there you
right?
go. But there's so much more to it than just that chipset, and
Yeah,
indeed quality, and how much copper is in the LED strip, and you name it. And I personally love the newer the GS 8208 types.
yeah, we've been using those too, man. It's 12 volt. What's
Yeah,
not to love?
yeah,
They get hot. They
yeah,
generate a lot.
yeah. But that's their trick, because the WS 2815s,
Yeah, they
they
don't stay.
yeah, because they have built-in DC-DC converters or something, or in a way they what a GS does is they split up split up the 12 volts, and used 4 volts for each specific color.
Yeah,
um
it's more efficient, and we've had really good luck. We've been using those with a lot of our newer installations, and
yeah,
but again, there's a big question in PWM rate, right? So it's like when you notice when you dim an LED down, when you
yeah,
get into the low, more subtle range of the brightness spectrum,
yeah,
the problem is PWM rate. And GS 8208 it essentially runs on the 2811 protocol,
yeah,
which is fine. It has a higher PWM rate, but we use the 9822s or APA 102s
Yeah.
when we need a real high speed LED,
Yeah.
but you're stuck at 5 volts. So
Yeah.
really, it's like this mix of characteristics, and there is no one size fits all. It's like, what's your application? What are you trying to do with these LEDs?
Yeah.
And then what characteristics are most important?
Yeah.
And you make your choices based on the needs of the project.
Yeah.
So basically, our web store is going to be to try and make that selection process easier, and
Yeah.
hopefully, having a web store geared towards people like us who are, integrators essentially, will give us a little bit more breathing room in making our installations because
Yeah.
it won't
Making
be so
decisions.
Easter famine,
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So you're building that website right now, or?
Yeah, we are. But again, all we're doing is we're probably going to start out just selling LED strip and making like an informational resource, like
Yeah.
an educational resource on the different characteristics of the chipsets and the different types of product and the characteristics of product that you can buy. And then what I'd like to do is use that same web store to direct people to like our favorite tools, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
so like, all right, so our favorite processor is this, in this circumstance.
Yeah.
So like direct people to the Advatech site
Yeah.
for processors, um, or if they're looking for something different, maybe Pixel Pusher in certain scenarios. But
Yeah.
really explain the pros and cons of each,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I mean we could
That.
cross-link to your site too, and just be like, if you're looking for a truly integrated musical lighting instrument, these guys are creating a product that fits that need.
Yeah. So,
It's almost like a community resource.
yeah, so two things like that's essentially what we wanted to do with our website too. We're going to link Advatech, we're going to link Light Jams, we're going to link ELM, and just say our experience with it and be very precise on if you use it for this and that application, and if you use it in this and that way, it's your weapon of choice.
Yeah,
Because we have a lot of experience with touring setups, just music festivals, and with audio to music or music to lighting conversion and EV shows. So when people want to do something into that direction, they should come to our website and just figure out what we use. And I don't have any secrets in terms of what we use, and I want everyone to know how we do it. And
yeah. That's smart, man. I think that you're really smart to do that. It's I think proprietary, like the mindset that you have to be in to try and make everything proprietary, it's a very scarcity oriented mindset. Like
yeah,
it's almost like paranoid. Like, oh, we can't let anybody play with anybody else's toys. It's like, no, no, no.
yeah. The
If you're
the thing is, if people want to do exactly the same that we do, first you have to give them a lot of time to figure everything out, and then they end up with exactly the same that we have. Well, what's the new in that?
Well,
If,
dude, the thing is, no one will be able to do exactly what you do, and
yeah, and
no
there's
one
no
would be able to do exactly what we do.
exactly,
Because we are our own artists. You're your own artist. Like we each have our own styles.
and nobody wants to copy somebody else. It's just like either you'll be like inspired in what somebody does, and then you go figure out something, and then you figure out for yourself what you want to do, and you make it your own. So I'm not really scared about just losing that authenticity or whatever, and we are also still developing. But on the one side note, on the audio responsive part, one idea that uh, I'm I'm also planning to work out in a couple of months, because of course I have a lot of time now. Is to make to make audio analysis system on the Teensy, because now everything is working in Light Jams um, or Max for Live, or not Max for Live but just Max MSP. And I would just want to get it out of the PC. I just, and the new Teensy 4.0 4.0s, they are so quick and they have
Yeah,
such a high clock speed, and I just want to, I don't know, make every just make an input on every Teensy, so you can just, that's one solid microcontroller just for processing the audio and send it to the place that you want it to go. And
Man,
that
you
would
should do it. You should make like a dedicated application that
exactly.
you can drop onto a Teensy.
Yeah.
I was telling my friend Brian Pinkham. He was the one I was telling you about who makes that basically that little media server
Hmm.
that drops onto an Arduino.
Yeah.
Embedded programming, there's really not a lot of people writing software specifically for embedded processors and in like like a professional way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I would buy a system like that to drop onto a Teensy to use.
Yeah, and it's so cheap. You either sell the Teensy with the software on it, or you just, I don't know, you could just sell the software for a couple of bucks, and people can buy the Teensy and do it for themselves. And
Yeah,
they're so stable and they're so quick. Like the Toronto installation, it just ran for 6 weeks without any problem, and it's just three little Teensies in there. It's
yeah,
the brain is like 60 euros,
right,
and that's running what, 12,000 LEDs or something, or more.
right.
No, more.
And well, in that case, it's the right tool for the job because having a PC in there would just be would be a liability. You'd have, you'd have like this huge overhead with an operating system, software on top of that. You'd have to deal with, airflow and thermals. You'd have to deal with weatherproofing and have like an expensive case to put it in.
Yeah, and
So
the
yeah,
interaction, because you have to send all of the interaction data to the PC, and that will give you latency anyway. And
yep,
now with
yep,
the Teensy, it runs on 90 frames per second. Like the 4.0s are so incredibly quick, and
hmm
so it's really smooth and it's really cheap. And yeah, it was a no brainer to do that.
that's cool. Man, we're gonna have to visit each other next time I'm in Europe. I'm gonna try and come by the Netherlands.
Yeah, you
And
did projects over here.
yeah, I do projects occasionally in Europe, but I'm in Europe a lot for just various reasons. I've got a lot of friends in Barcelona, so I'm over there a lot. Yeah, I just tend to be in Europe a few times a year, and I usually spend a couple months of my year in Europe. Just
Yeah.
yeah,
when
it's a
you
lot.
when you when you come here, we go just clubbing or festivals or whatever. I think
Yeah,
clubbing is really cool. I think clubbing here in Europe is can be really unique.
yeah. I haven't done a lot of clubbing in Europe. I've done some festivals, but I haven't done like not a lot of interesting clubbing. Let's
Yeah,
put it that way.
I'll take you to interesting clubbing then in Amsterdam.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Dude, I got to jump off the phone pretty quick because I got another work call that I got to go and
no
do.
worries.
But this has been a great conversation, and I'm
It's a
really
good
glad that
talk
yeah, and
that we
let's
did.
do it again for sure. We can always do another one.
Yeah,
And basically, I'm gonna edit this down, and I'll let you listen to it, and then I'll probably need some like some more information to put on the page for the podcast so people can like find your website. I want to make sure people have all the ways to get in touch with you and like find your work as possible.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, curious how it's going to sound, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
it'll sound
I think
fine.
I
It'll
think
sound better than most of the ones I've done.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
No, it was a good talk, and yeah, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully this just runs over quickly, and we'll see each other in America or Europe or wherever.
yeah, I think we will. I think
Yeah,
we will. All
for
right,
sure.
brother. I will
Well,
talk to you soon.
thank you, and
Yeah,
have a good one.
yeah, you too, man.